I met a lot of people while I was dealing with addiction who fell in really, really young. I met a girl who started doing hard drugs when she was like, I don't know if it was 12 or 15, but it was far before your brain is developed enough for you to truly understand the consequences of your actions. I should have realized that I have an addictive personality, and yet I genuinely thought that nothing could get me because I was able to try out drugs that were harder and not immediately get hooked on them, or at least not have to use them the next day. I thought that I could just sample everything. I also was dealing with a lot of anxiety and depression, an eating disorder, and a sense of inadequacy despite being an overachiever. I was chronically exhausted, so I didn't feel okay without some sort of substance. And the line for me was so blurred that once I had tried MDMA, it was on. Even though the difference between that and like heroin are massive. But yet, I didn't really understand that. I also know that your brain isn't fully developed until 25, and I was before that point. And I most certainly didn't fully grasp what I was signing up for. But I was also unhappy and didn't like myself, so I almost didn't feel like I had anything to lose, even though I did. I was madly in love with someone who was emotionally abusive towards me. He separated me from my family and my friends, and ultimately my circle became him and anyone he wanted to hang out with. And so a combination of isolation and unhappiness made it so that I was just seeking relief. The times that were good with this individual that I was madly in love with, who was my first and only serious love, were times that we were intoxicated in one way or another. That was when things were good. And so I was more willing to throw away my future for moments of happiness with someone who I thought was my future, with someone who was incredibly controlling. And because he was so controlling, I put my trust in him, and if he said something was okay, then it was okay. Even once we were doing hard drugs, I literally would stop doing them because he said I needed to stop, which is amazing. And that just shows what a hold he had over me. I take responsibility for every decision that I made, and I'm grateful for the growth and the learning process. I don't assume that I wouldn't have made similar choices ultimately in different circumstances. I want people to realize that a regular, overachieving good girl is just as in danger of becoming an addict as anyone else. And I want people to recognize that it could be your friend, it could be your kid, it could be you. We do need to treat addiction as something separate from a moral failing, because the pressures that cause addiction are so complex and are very slow and insidious. So I'm hoping that by sharing, I can help people understand that it could be anyone.